Tempers flare in this emotional match. Let's talk about the newest Ted Lasso. Hey everyone, this is David Starr from Watcher Pass, and I'm here to talk about Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 9. I'm going to butcher the name of this one. It is Locker Room Aux Folles. It is coming to Apple TV Plus on May 10th, 2023. And it follows Richmond's great run of form as they are really kind of enjoying their soccer, and some of the character growth that we've seen throughout the season really comes full circle. So my hot take is, look, I think you should watch it. It's an important stepping stone in the season with some great character growth and improved team chemistry. It really kind of sets the stage for some of the later episodes, and I really kind of like how they are trimming down some of the storylines. Earlier, there were a ton. Now it is much more manageable. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the episode, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then go into a recap. As you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the recap section, but I will let you know when I get to there. Before that, I'll keep it vague, but when I get to those spoilers, I will let you know, and you can choose to turn it off or keep watching. So, in Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 9, you have Richmond, like I said, on a great run of form. They're on a 7-game winning streak. They are rocking up the Premier League table, and it all seems to be because they are now doing total football, and everyone seems to be enjoying it. It seems to be clicking. Everything seems to be working, but not everything is perfect. There's a little bit of a disconnect in a couple members of the team, namely Colin and Isaac. And you also have a look into kind of Nate's life and his kind of improving situation. He seems to be doing much better. I guess maybe to my chagrin, but it is kind of nice to see Nate have a little bit of happiness in his life. So those are kind of the two main storylines that come about as we approach this big match against Brighton Hove and Albion. Will Richmond continue their form? Will something horribly derail it? You just have to watch to find out. So things I liked about this episode. The first, I like the theme. The theme is, I guess it's some French play book, something Aux Folles. My wife mentioned it. She knows what this book is, and apparently that kind of goes through the episode. You've got some like French songs that are playing. I guess maybe sometimes they're in English, sometimes they're in French. It has like a nice kind of overall sound. I like how they kind of work little things into that to kind of give the episode a little bit of flavor, and that was really nice. It was a nice kind of like extra touch to make this episode feel a little different from the previous ones. The second thing I really loved is the character growth. There's some really good character growth from a lot of characters. It seems like in this episode there are, I guess, kind of 3 main growth points, 3 main storylines, and each of them have some pretty significant steps that are taken. So I like seeing that. I like seeing kind of the players evolve. I like seeing how the characters are kind of like interacting in this new environment and are kind of growing into better people, more mature people, whatever you want to call it. They are kind of evolving and developing and turning into more likable people. And the last thing I liked, look, I mentioned it already, it feels like this is pared down. The earlier episodes, there were so many different story plots. It kind of was tough to follow. Now we kind of have 3 main story threads that kind of go through this episode and intertwine. It makes for a much more enjoyable viewing experience. So things I didn't love as much. The first, I don't know, the Ted's banter just wasn't as funny to me this time around. It kind of is hit or miss with me. This episode, it fell flat. I didn't really think it was that funny. There were some funny moments from other characters, but the Ted Lasso kind of lassoisms, the things that he kind of says to fill the silence, I didn't really find them that funny. I don't know, maybe it's wearing off on me. Maybe it was just this episode. I don't know, but I didn't really love the Ted Lassoisms as much in this episode. And the second thing I didn't love, there will be minor spoilers here, at least for this point. The main, I don't know, conundrum, I didn't love how it was handled. The main conundrum is between Isaac and Colin. If you remember last episode, Isaac found out that Colin is gay by looking at his phone, and he saw some pictures on there, and he kind of like went silent after that. And that is one of the main kind of like conflicts, one of the main story threads in this episode is kind of Isaac and Colin and what is going on, like why Isaac is like giving him the cold shoulder. I didn't really love how it was handled. I thought it felt a little clunky. I thought it felt like it was trying to misdirect, which I think pretty sure it was. And it just didn't feel very natural to me. So, look, it's Ted Lasso. It's not really a natural show, but the way that their interaction was, it felt like it was intentionally done in a way to like misdirect the viewer, and also didn't feel like kind of a natural progression to the characters that we knew. But look, all that being said, I think this is an episode that you should watch. It's Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 9, coming to Apple TV Plus on May 10th, 2023. So definitely check it out. And if you want to hear more about the episode, you want to hear that recap, I'm going to that right now. But just to let you know, there will be spoilers. So in Ted Lasso Season 3, Episode 9, like I said, you have 3 main story threads. The first is kind of between Colin and Isaac. what is going on between them and the team as they're preparing for this big game against Brighton Hove Albion. The second kind of thread is with Roy. Roy makes a mistake early on in this episode where he's supposed to go to a press conference and he just kind of blows it off. Rebecca asks him to go to this press conference. This is actually a very funny scene because he like told him to go to the press conference. He's like, hell no. She told him to go to the press conference. He's like, F no. He told him again. He's like, I don't really want to. And then finally she tells him again. He's like, I would love to. It's a very funny kind of like twisting that knife, like getting Roy to kind of do it, but he ends up not going. And this causes Rebecca to yell at him, like, essentially like tell him to stop doing this, like stop kind of like giving up on anything that's hard. You can tell there's probably some twings in here. You can tell there's probably some relation to how the Keeley and Roy situation was handled. And it just kind of like forces Roy to evaluate like what he's doing and why he is like ignoring these things that he should be doing. And it kind of forces Roy to kind of like reevaluate some of the things that he's blown off. And I really liked, and that leads to a couple pretty interesting moments later on in the episode. And then the last kind of thread is with Nate and his time at West Ham and his budding relationship with Jade and some of the things that are happening around there. So those are the three main story threads. I'm going to go into each of them. I guess I can just kind of address them all individually. So the first one is between Colin and Isaac. Isaac has been kind of like ignoring Colin since he found out he was gay. He is giving him the cold shoulder. He's like not interacting with him. Colin will like, say like good play and Isaac will ignore him, or Colin will like try to get a high five and Isaac will ignore that as well. It's a very odd, you're not sure if maybe like Isaac is homophobic or if he is just feeling hurt because Colin didn't tell him. It doesn't really say, and Isaac isn't really a man of many words, so you don't really find out. But all of this comes to a head when during the Brighton Hove Albion match, Colin makes a mistake that leads to a goal against AFC Richmond, and that causes Isaac to like blow up at him uncharacteristically and also unfair. Like it was just a bad pass. It happens. Then later during the match, at halftime, when they're going to the stands, one of the fans like says that they're playing terribly and he says a derogatory homophobic term. And Isaac kind of loses it. He goes up in the stands. He like grabs the guy and like starts yelling at him, which leads to a red card. And as you can imagine, a soccer player going to the stands, not very good, not a good look, not good for anything. So he gets a red card, which already kind of piles on what's going on with Richmond. They're a goal down, and now they are a man down. So during halftime, they try to figure out what happens, and Isaac goes off on this like really like he's not going to explain it, but he says like, what if one of us was gay? Like that would be, that's not acceptable. It's not allowed. I think trying to kind of like, they were trying to like redeem his character for this like weird cold shoulder thing he was doing. And so he like storms off and goes into the locker room. And during this time, the team's like, what's going on? Like, well, we heard what it was. Maybe Isaac's gay. Maybe that's what's going on. And Colin eventually stands up. He's like, Isaac's not gay. And then he tells the team that he's gay. And it's a nice, like, I wish we would have actually seen him telling the team. You kind of get the aftermath where everyone's like, that's cool. Like, we support you. Like, we love you. You're part of our team. So it's a nice scene, but I wish we would have seen the actual scene where Colin, like, told them and maybe seen some of the team's reactions. Although I guess the reaction would just be like, whatever, like, great. But so that is like the first kind of main story thread. Eventually, after this whole, locker room talk where everyone kind of like comes out and supports Colin, they go out and play, and they have a great second half. Colin has a man of the match performance. He gets 2 assists. They score 2 goals and go on to like claw victory from the jaws of defeat. They beat Brighton Hove Albion 2-1. Colin has a great game, and it seems like the team is really clicking. So that's that thread. Now, Roy's thread, like I said, he blew off the press conference. He didn't go to that, which was a big mess up because they sent Coach Beard. Beard is very passionate about certain things. The press conference goes off the rails. But after this, Rebecca yelled at Roy and told him like he needs to figure out what's going on. Like he needs to stop running away from things that he doesn't want to do. So when Colin storms off at halftime during the game, Ted's going to go talk to him, but Roy's like, let me handle it. And Roy goes and talks to him. Isaac thinks he's going to yell at him, but Roy just sits down, like talks to him. It's a very kind of like nice emotional moment for Roy. He just kind of like sheds his like rough exterior and speaks to Isaac, like, you know, just as a peer, basically like saying like, says he messed up, but like he at least, you know, doesn't yell at him. He kind of like approaches it more from like a mentorship growth kind of role, which I liked. I liked that this, you know, that Roy kind of like let this side out. And it's come out a few times before, but I feel like this episode, they really try to emphasize it. Now, later on, after the match, when the press conference is going to happen, the post-match press conference, Ted is going to go out to do it. Everyone like, gets ready to like see this press conference, and Roy walks out. Roy walks out to do the press conference, and then Rebecca and the rest of the kind of like AFC Richmond management, leadership, whatever you want to call it, are not looking forward to this. But Roy does a fantastic job. He like answers the press. He still is Roy, so he does like he kind of is in his Roy persona, but he answers the press's questions. He like answers the good ones, blows off the stupid ones. It's kind of a perfect overall situation. And in this, he tells a story about his own time playing and one of the things that happened to him, and like how something that he said caused a really visceral reaction in another player that he didn't understand until later. And so essentially he relates that to what happened with Isaac. And he says like, for what Isaac to do that, he must have had a very good reason. I didn't ask him why. It's none of my business, but he knows he messed up, but he must have had like a good reason. So I don't like condone what he did, but I still kind of love him as a player and know that he had a good reason for it. So it was a very, very nice moment. So that was Roy's kind of growth. Now going to Nate. Nate and Jade have a nice like budding relationship. She visits him at work and brings him lunch. It's a really kind of sweet scene. And then Rupert, Nate's boss, the owner of West Ham, comes in and like says hi, and he has a very creepy mentality about this. He like, I don't know, looks like a predator in this situation, even though he's like kind of being outwardly nice. His mannerisms and kind of the way he says things, something that doesn't quite add up. So after this situation, Rupert invites Nate out to have a drink after their big game. West Ham is playing, I forget who, maybe Aston Villa. It was a decent matchup. West Ham eventually win, and so Nate is going to go have a drink with Rupert, and Nate is going to have a drink with Rupert. Now, Nate gets there, and Rupert's at the bar. Nate's excited to like hang out with Rupert. He kind of idolizes him, and when he's there, Rupert introduces him to these two ladies that he's picked up, and says like, "All right, well, they're going to drink with us now." And Nate's like, "I thought we were going to have a guys' night," and Rupert's like, "We are having a guys' night." And that's when Nate kind of like he comes up with this excuse. It's like, oh, actually, I couldn't make it, and so I just want to tell you in person. I didn't want to like text you, but I gotta go. I got something to do. So Rupert kind of like, you know, is perplexed a little bit, but he kind of like blows it off. He's still gonna go have some drinks with the ladies, and Nate hightails it back to Jade and has like a nice, lovely night with his girlfriend. So we'll see what happens with Nate and Rupert. We'll see if that causes a rift or if Rupert's just gonna like let it shut off. I don't know. I assume that the Rupert just kind of like I assume that there was some reason for Rupert to do this. Maybe he doesn't want Nate to like get tied down. Maybe he wants Nate to like focus on the game. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe Rupert's just a jerk and he doesn't want Nate to be happy. He wants him to like focus on work. Who knows? But in any event, that was the last thread. Those are the three kind of main threads in this episode. And so after all of this, you have AFC Richmond playing well, clicking, and now they're much stronger. Their team chemistry is that much bigger because you know, Isaac no longer has to be two different people. He doesn't have to be like his footballer persona and then his like personal life persona. He can now have those merge, and the team all supports him. So I think they are going to be stronger together. So I think Richmond's going to keep going on their run of form. I bet that it's going to like culminate with some big match against West Ham at the end of the season where they're playing well. We'll see what happens with West Ham, and maybe, just maybe, this will be the time that Richmond finally beats West Ham or beats their rival. We'll find out. I think Roy's going to continue to grow. Roy is going to like continue being a coach. I wonder if he is going. So it feels like Roy's going to continue to grow, and it feels like maybe there will be some like emotional reuniting with Keeley at the end of this, because Keeley is now broken up. Roy is like getting forced to kind of like address things that he doesn't feel comfortable with. So maybe that will lead to Roy and Keeley getting back together. We'll find out. And on the Nate Rupert side, I think something will happen. I think this is going to cause a rift with Nate and Rupert, and maybe this will either cause a poor form Maybe this will cause like a run of poor form for West Ham. Maybe Rupert will blame that on Jade and Nate having too many other things in his life. I don't know. We'll find out. But that was definitely a weird situation. And I think that, Nate and Rupert, this will probably cause like a rift in their relationship. Oh, and also at the end of this whole episode, so Isaac goes by Colin's house late at night and like knocks on the door. Colin answers, and Isaac explains that he's upset that Colin lied to him for these many years. And that's kind of one of the things I thought was maybe why Isaac was getting the cold shoulder, although it felt very weird. Like, it feels like if you're upset, you'd like, especially if you're good friends, you'd probably be more vocal about it, or, feels like maybe he'd be upset for a little bit and then kind of let it go. But that was Isaac's explanation. He said that he was upset with Colin for not telling him, and he lying to him for these many years. I don't know, not a great reason, but it is what it is. And Colin's like, well, I didn't tell anyone. I was lying to everyone. Like, no one knew. And then they kind of like joke because I guess Isaac can't keep secrets, and he's like, and you can't keep secrets. And I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, look, like as soon as you found out, like now the whole team knows. Kind of a fun joke. But in any event, after this, squashing the beef, Isaac apologizes to him. They then go inside and start like hanging out like friends. Like, they're playing video games, and Isaac is just peppering him with like questions about like being gay, which is kind of fun. It's like nice that they are now back to like normal, and that they can kind of hang out just as friends. And Isaac is accepting and also curious. He's curious about his friend. He's curious about like how his friend is thinking and living his life. So that was like a nice little capstone to this whole episode. So that is Ted Lasso season 3 episode 9. It comes to Apple TV Plus on May 10th, 2023. Definitely check it out. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.